All right, so graphing. I might as well just take one of these, since that's a practice test anyways, right? And graph it. So negative 5 squared plus 10 x minus 2. This is f of x. Okay? And this is what I like to call my 4-step. Okay? My 4-step graphing. It's actually, there's 5 steps to it, but I rarely use the 5th step. The 5th step is the quadratic formula, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is a 4th step graphing. Okay? 4-step graphing. Okay? And so what we want to do here is start with the first step, right? And the first step is setting your derivative equal to 0. Okay? So remember, you're finding the derivative. The derivative is the instantaneous slope of the function at that point, right? And the reason why you want to set it to 0 is because these quadratics, remember, the quadratics look like this or like this, right? And so at this point, that slope is going to be 0. And at this point, the slope is going to be 0. This would be positive, this would be negative, this would be negative, this would be positive if it were on the side of it, right? So we don't want negative and positive. We don't care about those. What helps us solve things is 0, right? So that's going to help us find what x is. So if it helps us find what x is, it tells us this line right here. What that line is called is the axis of symmetry. Okay? And so by setting this derivative equal to 0, we find the axis of symmetry. Now, after we find the axis of symmetry, right, we plug it in. So that's step 2. I just find the function with respect to the axis. Whatever the axis is, I plug it in. And that's equal, right? And that's equal to y, right? So the axis is x, and this is y, and that is really our vertex. Okay? So that gives us the vertex. And now, we just want to find some easy points to graph. We need 3 points. This is 1 point, right? X and y. And now, the third is a nice, easy point. What's easier than plugging in 0? Again, 0 helps us solve, right? So if we plug in f of 0, right, we get c, right? Because ax squared plus bx plus c is the formula for a quadratic, right? And if you plug in 0 for x, these cancel. And so the only thing left is c. And so it's going to be 0 and c is your point. So you have a vertex, you have a point. And now you want to find the other point. Okay? If we think about it, if this is the vertex, right? And then when it hits this point, it's at 0, right? Then this is a certain measure away. But this is a symmetrical idea. The idea of a parabola is symmetrical. So it's going to be the same distance this way to get to this side. So all I have to do is times 2 against the x, or the axis. So what I want to do is plug in f of 2 times the axis, right? And that should equal c also. Because it's going to be the same on both sides. Because they're symmetrical points. Okay? And this is your check method. And the check method because it lets you know if you're doing it right. Alright? So, first is the derivative. So we use the power rule to do our derivative, right? The power rule is take the exponent, multiply it by the coefficient. So we get f prime of x is the derivative, and that equals 2 times negative 5, which is 2 times negative 5? Negative 10. 1 times 10. And then we subtract 1 from the exponent, so we get x. Then 1 times 10 is 10. 1 from 1 is 0, so it's really x to the 0, right? So this is really x to the 0. This already has x to the 0, so 0 times 2 is 0, and x to the negative 1. But see, what happens is this goes away. This is just 1, right? This is just 0. So it's just 1 times 10 plus 0 and 10x plus that. So f prime of x is equal to negative 10x plus 10. And so now we want to set that equal to 0 to find the slope when the slope is 0. Okay? One thing I didn't mention was, how do we know if this thing's smiling or frowning? Okay? And the first coefficient, if it is positive, then...
Excuse this interruption. All high school soccer girls are dismissed to the bus. All high school soccer girls are dismissed to the bus.
If it's positive, then this thing is smiling. Okay? If it's negative, then this thing is frowning. Okay? If it's a negative, then the polynomial is frowning. Okay? So we know that this is negative, so we know that this is negative, so we know that this is what's going on with this one, right? But we don't really care, it just gives us a good frame of reference for when we graph it. I'm just going to solve this and find the axis of symmetry. So I've got minus 10, minus 10. I've got minus 10x equals minus 10. So now I divide by negative 10, divide by negative 10. I get x is equal to 1. That is my axis of sim. Okay? Then all I have to do is plug that in to the original equation. F of x is equal to negative 5x squared plus 10x minus 2, right? Wrong hole. And then I just plug in 1 and 1. Then I do the math. 1 squared is 1. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. 1 times 10 is 10 minus 2. Okay? We've got 5 minus 2. So we've got 3. So f of 1 is equal to 3. That gives me my vertex, 1 and 3. That's the vertex. Okay? And so now I got 2 points. 2 easy points, right? First of all, f of 0 should equal c, and c in this case is negative 2. Because negative 5 times 0 squared plus 10 times 0 minus 2. Okay? So these cancel, and I get minus 2. It's just that simple. So 0, negative 2 is my point. Okay? Now my other point is f of 2 times the axis, and the axis is 1, right? I'm getting that 1 from right here. Okay? And so, at that point, I just have 2 times 1 is 2. So I have, f of 2 is equal to, sorry, I didn't think I hit record. Now it's like, that would suck. F of 2 is equal to, and it should equal to negative 2 again, right? That's what it should equal. Now we want to make sure it does. So we're going to do f of 2 in negative 5x squared plus 10x minus 2. And so then I want to plug in 2 and 2. And what's 2 squared? 4. And 4 times negative 5, negative 20. What's 2 times 10? Positive 20. So positive 20, negative 20 cancel, and it gives me just negative 2. And so this is right. So now I have another point of 2, negative 2. Okay? And so I want to graph those 3 points. So when I'm graphing, I got to look at my points and go, well, I've got 1 and 0 and 2 in the x's. So I need to go up to at least 2. So I'll go 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay? And with the y's, I have negative 2, and 3. So I need to go 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 3. And so now I can start plugging in points. So the orange one is 0, negative 2. Okay? The red one is 2, negative 2. Okay? And the black one is 1, 3. Okay? And so now I've got, oops, that's better, right there. Now I've got that. Okay? And that's the how to do it. That's how you graph a quadratic.